So I'm not sure if you've noticed or not, but men can be sensitive, all right? Men can be a little fragile. And more specifically, they can be sensitive towards the woman that they actually care about, that they have deep feelings for, or they're in a relationship with. And what I've seen as a relationship coach time and time again is women not always being mindful of the things they say that really punch that man in the gut, sometimes below the belt. Now listen, sometimes the woman knows exactly what she's doing and she's trying to punch below the belt, all right? And that can cause all kinds of problems. But if you are not trying to intentionally do that, you do have to be aware of what common things can create a lot of problems in that guy and how he feels towards you and how he starts to act in that relationship. So one of the most popular things you should never say to a man is, why can't you be more like fill in the blank? All right, so why can't you be more like my friend such and such? Why can't you be more like this person we see on TV? Or the worst one is, why can't you be more like my ex? Now, I would hope and like to believe that the majority of women will not cross the line of saying, why can't you be more like my ex? But it happens. It does. And the reason why this phrase is such an issue is because men do not want to be compared to anyone. They don't want you throwing in their face how essentially someone else is better than them at this. Now, this is not to say you aren't free to constructively criticize a man. I think you should. I think that in relationships, we have to create environments where we can give constructive criticism to each other and we can be open and honest about our concerns, what we see as shortcomings, and encourage each other to be better. But consider if he ever said to you, why can't you be more like her? Right? You would have a fit. There's no way you would be okay with that. And again, the issue would not be what specifically needs to be improved upon, but it would be, why does he have to compare you and how that can make you feel inadequate. Not only can it make someone feel inadequate, but it can cause the man to start to question, well, does she have more feelings for this person? Does she want this type of person more? And this becomes a bigger problem when that other person you're comparing them to is nothing like them, all right? So what's kind of hitting my spirit that I think will resonate with a lot of you ladies is there's been a lot of scenarios where a woman's with a man and he's liking pictures on Instagram, okay, or whatever social media site. And the women that he's liking, the way that they look physically is nothing like the way that she looks. And because of this, the issue is going way beyond the fact that he's just liking other women's pictures. Not saying that's not an issue, but that's not even what's really hurting her or bothering her. It's, if you're liking these women who look nothing like me, then how am I supposed to believe you truly like me? Like, how is that supposed to make me feel when that's a completely different style of woman? And so for that man, it can happen in that way too. I do think that men may feel less bothered from a physical standpoint. Let's say if we flipped it, her liking guys' posts. Not saying a man wouldn't be bothered, but I think it's not as common. But that comparison piece and saying, why can't you be more like this? Essentially, why is your personality more like this? That can really get under his skin. So you want to make sure, again, if you're going to criticize in any fashion, whatever that specific issue is, so maybe he's not affectionate enough, right? So it's, why can't you be as affectionate as this person? Just focus on the affection, not the comparison. Leave the comparisons out. That's when we create more problems than we really want to deal with. And again, you plant seeds of insecurity and you plant seeds of skepticism if the person you're comparing him to is someone who is in your life or accessible to you. You see, it's even though he doesn't want to be compared even to the guy on TV, right? at least the guy on TV is completely out of your reach. So that it doesn't add on the layer of, well, is she gonna go after that guy, or what do they have going on? But if you're comparing him to a friend, someone that you used to date, anything like that, then yeah, that can create so many more problems. All right, so now the second thing you should never say to a man is, you're not that strong. So listen, again, do not get me wrong. Sometimes he really isn't that strong, and whatever he's attempting to do in that moment is beyond his strength limit, all right? I think we can acknowledge that that's gonna happen sometimes. And I do think that if it's a ridiculously difficult action for him to take, so it's almost like if he said, yeah, I'm gonna lift this car, and you said, you ain't that strong. No one's gonna take that really offensively, right? But let's say he's like, oh, let me lift this big box, or let me lift this TV. Oh, you're not that strong for that. Like, dang, you basically saying I'm weak, all right? And no man wants to be viewed as weak by his partner, even if he's lacking in physique and strength and muscles, all that stuff. And he may be aware of that to a certain extent. For you to just kind of undercut him and belittle him in that moment, it can be a problem. Now, let me throw out there are gonna be some guys who aren't sensitive, who may take it more as a joke depending on how you deliver the comment. And you may have that kind of rapport with him that these little things don't really matter. But I do think you have to be careful, and you do have to make sure that is an established banter that you both have, so to speak, all right? But until you understand that he'll take it in a lighthearted way, and until you make sure you know how to deliver it in a more lighthearted way, you want to avoid that. And again, when it comes to things that he's trying to do that might be beyond what he can actually do, all right? It's almost like you can suggest alternatives to, well, you sure you want to lift that by yourself? Maybe you should get somebody else so it's not too much. You see how that comes off way differently than you're not that strong? Like, just don't hit him in the gut, say, yeah, you're weak. Suggest other things. It's still conveying that maybe his strength isn't there, but it's a lot better, a lot easier for him to take, and it won't turn into anything negative. Because again, all of these things I'm mentioning and will mention, it runs the risk of creating a feeling of inadequacy and making him feel insecure around you. Because again, now if she doesn't think I'm that strong, does she question my ability to protect her? Does she question my ability to stand up to other men? This can start to play in that man's head, and you don't want to create that for any, it's just best to leave that alone. All right, so now number 3, and real quick, be sure to subscribe to the channel and like the video. I appreciate your support. So the third thing you should never tell a man is, it's just a game. So now this can apply to, typically it's gonna be either sports or video games. All right, now granted, there's other games that men can become very passionate about, men can become very even addicted to, all right? And an addiction to it or overuse of some of these things is unhealthy, all right? I'm completely on the same page with some of you on that way of thinking. However, let's go a little deeper for a second. Understand, and let's start with video games. Understand that video games for a lot of men, and quick disclaimer, I'm someone who used to play video games a lot. I stopped playing them a long time ago. Not saying there's anything wrong with a man who plays video games, but I want to let you know that I've been on one side of the spectrum and now I'm on the other side. But video games for a lot of men is an escape. It's a getaway. It's a way to take my mind off life and all these other things that may overwhelm me. It's a more enjoyable pastime, all right? And because of that, the video game becomes the man's sanctuary, so to speak, all right? His place of peace. Even when he's rattled and all into it and acting all crazy, he likes being there than being in the world right now, having to deal with a bunch of other nonsense that stresses him out. And so to some men, video games is very important to them, all right? It can be the equivalent to what maybe reading a book to someone else. Granted, we can argue that reading a book is more beneficial depending on what type of book it is, but that's not the point. The point is how he perceives it and what it means to him, all right? And so essentially, when he's in that space, he doesn't want you trying to pull him out of it all the time, all right? Now listen, I do think that if you notice your man being too much into video games to where he is not taking care of his responsibilities, all right? Or he is being too lazy, then yes, you should discuss these things with him. Nothing wrong with that. I would encourage you to. But you don't interrupt while he's playing the game, okay? You don't make it an argument and fight while he's playing the game. This is the wrong time. If you do that, you can actually create resentment, all right? And create just a lot of friction in the relationship. And yes, you may be saying right now, but it's just a game. No, it's not. Like, stop doing that. It means more to him. Now, here's something else that I personally believe and have observed when it comes to men's, I'll use the word obsession with video games. I believe that men are internally wired to face challenges, conquer something, have something they can be proud of, right? Achieve. And video games has become an easy way to get that fix, all right? For a lot of men, going out into the world and trying to do big things seems too daunting. For some individuals, they don't want that level of achievement, but there's still something in them that wants to beat something, so to speak, all right? And playing that game and beating that level and doing this, it makes him feel good. So again, when you say it's just a game, you are devaluing what is valuable to him. You are, in a way, making him feel like he should feel guilty for wanting this, playing this, and indulging in this in any kind of way. And again, there is a line that he should not be crossing as far as where it becomes unhealthy. But I do believe that if it's important to him, there has to be an understanding and a willingness to strike a balance there. So take back the it's just a game. No, it's more than a game. It's all those things I mentioned. And yes, this can also play into sports, whether he's playing it or rooting for his team. Now, again, I'm going to put out there real quick. I'm someone who I played a lot of sports growing up. Love sports to this day. And once upon a time, I used to be more emotionally attached to sports. And then I kind of had a shift in my thinking, like, listen, this ain't gonna do anything to improve my life. I still enjoy sports, but that emotional attachment that I had before is not nowhere near as strong or even there at all. So again, this is something that I understand both sides of this. I do think that men and people in general have to be very careful with how emotionally invested they get to where they'll let this game ruin their day. But I understand that, again, to them, it's not just a game. And to them, it is kind of the extension of the video game, just a version that they don't play. But they view themselves as, this is my team and I want my team to win. And when my team wins, it makes me feel good as well. Again, I feel the need to say, I do think that individuals have to find other things that give them that great feeling of achievement that they can actually put their hands on. But it's important to them. So it's another example of when that game is on TV, do not interrupt. Do not make an issue. If it's an emergency, that's different, all right? But outside of an emergency, let that man have it. Let him have his game. Let him do his thing and just keep it moving. And show respect for what is valuable to him the same way you would want him to show respect to what is valuable to you. All right, so we're going to keep it moving. And now we're at number 4. And the fourth thing you should never tell a man is you need to man up. Now, what I originally had on my list, and I will still include it as like a sub phrase to this fourth point, is you're acting like a little, you can fill in the blank, B and it ends with an H, okay? All right. Now, some of you might be like, I would never say it to a man. Listen, there are plenty of women who would have told a man he's acting like a little you know what, all right? Anything like that. Man up, you need to be a man. You acting like this. All these things call into question his manhood. All of these things can emasculate him in that moment and can cause him to feel, not even just cause him to feel, it shows a lack of respect. All right. Now, again, I understand that in some moments, he may literally need to step up as a man. He may need to grab his cojones, as some people would say, all right, and make some things happen. But as his woman, as the woman he has decided to share life with or to be in a relationship with, okay, he does not need you unless you guys have established that kind of relationship. But most men are not going to feel good about their woman coming at them like that, all right? What he needs from you in that moment is encouragement, loving encouragement, trusting in him, saying, I believe in you. You know what I'm saying? These types of things that inspire him and give him the fuel to quote unquote man up. Give him the fuel to step up in the way that you're looking for. But when you attack him, because those kinds of words are attacks on his manhood, it can create a lot of problems. Now, here's the other thing you have to understand. And it happens so often in so many relationships. So calling him a little B, right? Or telling me he needs to man up, or any kind of insult in that way, is essentially what I like to call chopping his balls off, all right? just work with me here. And so when you chop the man's balls off, what happens is he now looks for other opportunities to reattach his balls, all right? He looks for ways, or what some may call buck up at you. Now he comes a little bit harder at you because he's trying to regain that manhood he feels like you kind of took from him in that moment, all right? Or to show you, oh no, you ain't gonna talk to me like that. No, I'm the man here. The problem is that men tend to do this at the worst moments. Like he's not properly reattaching his balls in a way that's like it's gonna be healthy. No, because he's just looking for any opening to essentially reassert himself. And so now what happens is it turns into this very negative cycle. And I have literally coached couples where they're having all these other issues on the surface. Well, he doesn't do this and she doesn't do that and so on and so forth. But at the very root of it all is she disrespecting him. When I say she disrespected him, I mean she showed a blatant lack of respect in the way that she came at him, that it started that whole process of you chop the ball, he's now trying to reattach them, and it becomes this toxic cycle that goes on forever. Now, some may say, well, if she attacked him, he did something first. That argument can be made in some situations. But the point is, it's one thing for him to blatantly do something disrespectful, and then you're disrespectful in return. Not that that's healthy. Either way, if we should not answer disrespect with disrespect, we should not tolerate disrespect. And if the person's not going to correct the issue, we leave them alone. But the minute we pour disrespect back into it, we're not going to have this back and forth battle going on. And what starts off as that one incident will snowball into bigger problems. So again, you have to be very careful with your words, and you have to be very mindful that in that moment where you feel like, let's just say deep inside, you just feel like he's not being what in your eyes man enough right now, all right? Again, then encourage, speak life into that man. And I feel the need to say this. If you feel like encouraging and speaking life has not gotten you anywhere, then the question becomes, are you even with the right man? You should not feel like you have to cross disrespectful lines to try to light a fire in him. Because even if it lights a fire in getting him to do whatever in that moment, you planted the seed of toxic energy, of disrespect, of all these other things that will now grow into bigger problems. So again, it can be tempting in those moments, or some moments you just lose sight of things. It gets the best of you and you say these disrespectful things. And if you ever have, because maybe some of you watching this have already done some of this, all right? You've already come out of your mouth with these words. Acknowledge it. Acknowledge that it was a problem. Acknowledge that it was wrong. Take accountability for it and work towards doing things better moving forward. Hey, thank you for watching this video. Be sure to check this one out right here, and I'll see you there. So there's a great quote that says, texting isn't courting. Now, some of you may agree, some of you may disagree. I think we can all agree that texting has become a part of our everyday life.